Before I get into today's episode, how's your storytelling? Do you know that perhaps you could be using storytelling a little bit more effectively, but the whole thought of storytelling, it's like, well, I'm not a storyteller. I just want to give people the facts and the figures. If that's the case, then you want to come along to my upcoming speakeasy, which for this month is all about storytelling. Now, my speakeasies, yes, it's a deliberate play on words because I also love a good speakeasy bar, but this is where I help you make speaking easy. It's an online workshop where I'll spend about 10-15 minutes teaching you some storytelling frameworks, and then the rest of the time it is feedback, it's practice, it's coaching. They are awesome sessions, even if I do say so myself, and they're entirely free. The next one is coming up on the 27th of March. It's a Friday, 11 a.m. Brisbane time, and the link to join and to register, you do need to be registered, is in the show notes. It's a fantastic way to build some skills and to build your confidence in easily one of the most powerful speaking tools you can have, and that is storytelling. And trust me, it's easier than you think. So you can come along and you can learn heaps just in an hour. So click on the link in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing you at my upcoming speakeasy, where we're going to talk about storytelling. Welcome to another episode of Speaking with Confidence with Kat Matson, the show where I coach you, impact-minded, humble leaders, whether you're a business owner, a public servant, or another form of corporate hippie. This show is where I coach you to speak with authority, with authenticity, and with confidence every single time, so you can make the impact that you want to make in your world. And today, yes, we are getting to the grit, the grit and the grunt of why conversations matter. And we're going to talk about commercial outcomes. In other words, sales. And how do you move people along their customer journey without being salesy? So this particular conversation came up because I recently delivered a workshop on just this topic for a corporate client of mine. They want to get more, well, they're already getting invitations to speak on panels, to speak at conferences. They want to host their own webinars. And what they were very clear on is there's no point in doing those things unless there is commercial outcomes. Now, I've been in this game. I've been in the speaking game 30 years. Yep. Pretty sure my first speaking engagement, I was 20. My first official paid speaking engagement would have been back when I was 20 and I was running a life coaching practice. And I was contacted by an event organiser. They were running an event for executive assistants. They'd seen my website and they wanted to know whether I would be interested in speaking at their event. Of course I said yes. And I was speaking to a captive audience of about 850 executive assistants. What I didn't know then was how to move this audience along a customer journey. For me, that particular first speaking engagement was just give them all the information, wow them, have them go, wow, that was amazing, and then walk away and not get any more sales. Dope. I know better than that now. Those kind of conversations, whether it's a keynote, whether it's a panel, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a networking function and you're just having a one-on-one conversation with someone, all of those conversations, you want to be progressing your listener along the customer journey. And if they're not a customer, you want to be progressing them to be a referral partner. So how do we do that? Well, before I get into how we do that, why don't we? Why do we stuff this particular one up? Because I see so many people say, Kat, I'm getting so many speaking engagements, or I'm a guest on podcasts, or, I'm doing all of my social media, but I'm not getting the business. I'm not getting the attention that I want. I'm not getting the inquiries. I'm not getting the sales. Well, the first thing that we don't do is that we're not clear. We're not clear on what the next steps are for our listener. So we're not planting the seeds, and we're also not inviting them in to the next step. We also, we resist appearing salesy or pushy. And so we sit in a really strong place of, I'm just going to help. And if I help people enough, then they'll want to buy. If I just work hard enough and prove that I'm likable enough, and if I just do all the nice things, then that will be enough. Yeah, nah, that's not how it works at all. We know that. We know that. And we don't let people know what the next step is. Saying something like, well, I look forward to seeing you again next time, doesn't progress the conversation. So that's the first thing that we do wrong. And the other thing that we miss is that we don't have clear strategic intent. What is the point? What is the strategic intention of this conversation? Now, whether it's a podcast guesting opportunity, whether it's meeting somebody for the first time at a networking function, whether it's a coffee catch-up with someone that you just hit it off with and you want to continue the professional conversation, whether it's a panel, whether it's a keynote, whether it's a sales conversation or an early stage conversation, you need to be clear on what's the strategic intent. What's your ideal outcome? How could you add the most value to your listener, to your audience, and how do you progress them along the line? Now, this is not about giving them everything that they need to know to buy. It's about understanding where they might be on the customer journey and taking the next step. So one of the things that I coach people on is make sure you're clear on your call to action. Be clear on what the next step is so you can be seeding that. So you can be planting the seeds of that throughout your conversation. And then at the end of the conversation, you can be asking them to do what it is that you want them to do. Now, one of the beautiful things about webinars, speaking engagements, is that you can have commercial conversations at scale. You can invite many people into your world. Hint, or in a way of working out loud, I just did that at the top of this episode and invited you into my speakeasy. Moving people along the conversation is key. And so when you are on a speaking engagement, when you have a panel, when you have, actually let's deal with the webinars or the speaking engagements first. Being really clear on what the call to action is and then making it easy for them to take that next step. Booking for the webinar, scan the QR code, sign up to receive the newsletter, whatever the case may be. And then shaping your conversation, shaping your responses to the panel, shaping your keynote so that you're actually moving people along the customer journey. I can almost hear some listeners right now going, but Kat, that's really manipulative. Like people are listening to me because they want the value. It's not about not offering the value, but it is about taking them by the hand and taking them on the journey. Because here's the thing, if you've been invited to speak on a panel to add some value in a particular area because you've got expertise, there's only so much value you can offer them in that 45-minute panel conversation or in that 45-minute webinar. You can add so much more value to them if they come and buy from you, if they come into your space, if they become a client, if they take the next step. And so when we can see commercial conversations as a higher form of service, and then when we have that strategic intent of moving people along the customer journey, then not only is all of the effort that you put into preparing for a webinar, a panel, a keynote, even rocking up to a networking function, all of that effort becomes a better use of your time, but it also helps your listener. It also helps your audience. You help them get their outcome sooner. Rather than labouring that point too much today, I think I'm going to leave this particular episode as a nice, short, tight one. And I want you to think about how can you go into your conversations this week with greater strategic intent? How can you be clear on what's the next step in the customer journey, in the client journey, in the user journey? And how can you progress them? How can you How can your conversation help move them along the line? I would highly recommend that you come along to my storytelling speakeasy on the 27th of March, because using stories to help people see how you can help them, to help people see the value that you bring, is a very powerful way of building rapport and moving people along the customer journey without being too salesy. So just click on the link in the show notes and book yourself in. If you're struggling with this concept, or if you'd like to discuss your particular scenario, then find me on Instagram at Kat Matson. Again, I will post the link to my profile in the show notes, and you can literally ask me the question: How would I have conversations for commercial outcomes, Kat, in my particular scenario? Please ask me that question. And finally, if this episode has been of value, help me help more diverse voices get heard in the conversations that matter. You can do that by liking, subscribing, or rating this podcast, share it, or leave a review. All of those things just give the algorithm gods little nudges that say, oh yeah, this is a worthy episode, this is a worthy podcast, and it helps more people build the confidence and build the skills that they need to contribute to the conversations that matter. So, with that said, thank you for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next week, where I am going to talk a little bit more about authentic storytelling. So until then, here's to confidence and here's to impact. I'll see you soon.